very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. Now with the latest developments from here at home and around the world. Bringing you the news for the Newsfirst team, I'm John Fernando.
A very good evening, I am Rahna Farooq. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
AJITH PRASANNA arrested for contempt of court, remanded until 7th of February. Lawyers stage silent protest against the Attorney General. Forensic audit on the bond scam reveals EPF losses between 2008 and 2015 over 16 billion.
2006 ඉඳලා 2015ටත් අධිපතිවරු යටතේ රජ කරලා තියෙන්නේ කවුද? බොන් කිංලා. බොන් කිංලා කවුද? අර්ජුන මහේන්ද්‍රන්ලම තමයි. අර්ජුන ඇලෝසියස්ලා තමයි.
බැඳුම් කර හොරකම් මැච් එකේ ටයි කෝට් පිළ පරදා සාටක පිළ ජයග්‍රහණය කර ඇති බව ෆොරෙන්සික් වාර්තාවෙන් වාර්තා කර සනාථ කර තිබේ.
Constitutional Council approves appointment of Yasantha Kodagoda to the Supreme Court. WHO announces health emergency in China.
Now taking a look at your stories in detail. Retired Major AJITH PRASANNA was remanded until the 7th of February by Colombo High Court Judge Dhammika Ganikola.
AJITH PRASANNA was arrested for contempt of court by criticizing High Court Judge Gihan Kulatunga and the rulings he delivered. The Criminal Investigations Department filed a complaint with the Colombo High Court, citing that AJITH PRASANNA had been in contempt of court by criticizing in the presence of the media the case filed against ex-magistrate Tilanga Gamage at the Colombo High Court and various other cases examined by High Court Judge Gihan Kulatunga. Colombo High Court Judge Dhammika Ganikola, who conducted a preliminary examination, ordered for Major AJITH PRASANNA to be produced through a JMO to a consultant psychiatrist for examination and a report to court on his mental condition. Court also noted it was evident that the defendant had committed contempt of court as the statements he made to the media were viewed as an unnecessary influence on serving justice. The CID director was ordered to record further statements from the suspect and report to court. Senior State Counsel Janaka Bandara, appearing for the Attorney General, presented verbal and documented facts on statements made by the defendant. He pointed out that the statements caused grave harm to the reputation and independence of the entire judiciary. Senior State Counsel Janaka Bandara requested court to remand AJITH PRASANNA as granting bail would cause an influence on the investigations and witnesses. Colombo Additional Magistrate Priyantha Liyanage ordered the Criminal Investigations Department to arrest AJITH PRASANNA for making comments at a media briefing in a bid to influence the witnesses in the case filed over the abduction and enforced disappearance of 11 youth from Colombo, a matter which is being taken up at the 4th Magistrates Court. A group of lawyers protested against the Attorney General opposite the Colombo Magistrates Court today. Members of the Lawyers Association of the Colombo Chief Magistrates Court had organized the protest. They are attempting to go after judges and lawyers. An order was issued to arrest High Court Judge Gihan Pilapitiya. The Attorney General need not fulfill the responsibility of the police by issuing orders to arrest people. The responsibility of the Attorney General is to advise the relevant authorities. This is not a political issue. We have started this struggle to ensure the safety of judges and lawyers in this country. The Attorney General's department severely criticizes judgments given by courts, and we believe that lawyers should also have this right. On behalf of the entire community of lawyers, we ask for this hunt to be halted. We have sent 2 teams of representatives to meet with the Prime Minister and the President. Minister Wimal Veerawansa spoke about the Attorney General in Parliament today. Ranjan Ramanayaka speaks to the IGP and says put him in for at least 1 hour and asks him to speak with the judge. Ramanayaka speaks with the heads of the CID and says do it in a way that the bail application of Gamman Pilla gets rejected. He says throw Mahindananda in and throw Johnny in jail. This is how these things have happened. It is the same person approved by the so-called Independent Constitutional Council who is the current Attorney General of the country, Dappula de Oliveira. Now if that AG ordered to arrest someone back then, they would have arrested them. They didn't care who it was. Recently he said, immediately arrest Gihan Pilapitia. I don't know what has happened to the Attorney General. There is a video clip of another judge who is having a conversation with Ranjan Ramanayaka. He was the former magistrate of Kaduela. The Attorney General does not issue an order to arrest him, but he orders for the arrest of Judge Gihan Pilapitia, who filed a complaint that Ranjan Ramanayaka tried to influence him. Gihan Pilapitia did not do what Ranjan Ramanayaka asked of him. How can you arrest the party who filed the complaint? This same Attorney General was in office for many years. The President issued an order not to arrest Gihan Pilapitia. If this was allowed to happen, it would have been a massive scar on the judicial system of the country. We cannot stand by while the judicial system of the country is being destroyed. It is true that Ranjan Ramanayaka demeaned the court system of the country. We need to save the judiciary very carefully. As a government, we have a responsibility to do that. Meanwhile, during a media briefing today, several parliamentarians of the ruling party expressed the following views regarding the arrest of MP Ranjan Ramanayaka. The previous regime arrested many individuals based on political reasons. We suffered the most due to political vengeance. We urge them to refrain from arresting anyone without a valid reason. They are trying to arrest judges because of these recordings. We urge them to look into this matter properly without taking any harsh decisions. MP Ramanayaka now goes to Parliament and says he was trying to catch all the thieves. These phone recordings have now been publicized. The CDs containing the phone recordings have not been submitted to Parliament as yet. We urge the government to refrain from arresting anyone without a valid reason, as this may damage the reputation of our government as well. We urge the Attorney General to look into this properly before taking any action. These recordings were released only because they were recorded by MP Ramanayaka in the first place. He was not a very powerful minister in the previous regime. We are all aware that he was not connected to subject areas such as the police or the judiciary. We must now investigate the phone history of the ministers who served in the ministries connected to those subjects. If a parliamentarian such as Ranjan Ramanayaka can influence the judiciary and the police in such a manner, imagine how much the subject ministers could influence the police and the judiciary. Who gave him the strength to do all of this? Speaker of Parliament Karu Jayasuriya confirmed in Parliament today that MP Ranjan Ramanayaka has not yet submitted the CDs containing the controversial voice recordings. I would like to know if a parliamentarian can attend sessions of Parliament while in remand custody without an order from court. Yesterday, the Deputy Speaker said that he did not submit the recordings. He took back the recordings that he gave. It is said that he took the recordings back because those include phone conversations with you and a number of other people. So we would like you to clarify facts on this. Was a receipt issued? If a receipt was issued from Parliament, he can go to court and say that he submitted all of the voice recordings. This issue should be resolved. So we expect an answer from you on this. Any parliamentarian has a right to attend sessions of Parliament even if they are in remand custody. They do not need the permission of anyone, and this will be the case in the future as well. The second is that the recordings were not handed over to the General Secretary. I state this with responsibility. When he was informed of this, he had given a note to one of the officials, and he had taken them with him. So Parliament has no responsibility on that. I don't know if there is any of my voice recordings in there because I don't talk too much. Even if there is something like that, that's all right. I will look into it. But the recordings were not handed over.
නෝට් එකක් දුන්නේ. ඔව් ගත්ත ඒක ආපහු ගත්තා. නෑ එතුමා නෝට් එකක් කරියන්නේ. ඔබතුමා නෝට් එකක් කරියන්නේ. ඔව් මෙයා නෝට් එකක් බාරගෙන නෝට් එකක් කරියා.
Now in more headline-making news, the forensic audit on the central bank bond scam has revealed that the Employees Provident Fund had suffered a loss of over 16 billion rupees between 2008 and 2015. Now according to the report, investments in treasury bonds caused losses of about 8.7 billion rupees and investments in the stock market had caused losses of 7.7 billion rupees. Now, the forensic audit pointed out that the losses were caused due to investments made outside the accepted procedures.
The EPF is the largest social security scheme in Sri Lanka with an asset base of 2.29 trillion rupees as at the end of 2018. The management of the fund is handled by the EPF Department of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. The EPF has invested 92% of its investment in the treasury bonds, while 3.3% is invested in the stock market. Similar to the central bank bond scam, the EPF was one of the main victims of the corruption and malpractices that had taken place in the stock market. The forensic audit of the central bank reveals that the EPF had suffered a loss of 8.7 billion rupees due to the bond transactions that had taken place during the controversial period between 2008 and 2015. It adds that the EPF had suffered a loss of 7.7 billion rupees due to investments in just 6 listed companies. The EPF suffered a loss of 1.3 billion rupees due to investing in shares of Browns & Company PLC. 6 billion rupees due to investing in the shares of Ceylon Grain Elevators PLC. The EPF suffered a loss of 620.62 million rupees due to its investment in the shares of Galadari Hotels Lanka PLC. The EPF also suffered a loss of 1.9 billion rupees due to the investment in the shares of Colombo Dockyard. A loss of 1.7 billion rupees was suffered by the EPF in the investment in the shares of Bukit Dara PLC. The EPF also suffered a loss of 1.6 billion rupees due to investing in the shares of Carson Cumberbatch PLC. According to the forensic audit, EPF funds worth 4.5 billion rupees had been invested in unlisted companies prior to 2011 without any policy guidelines. 2 of these investments were approved by the Monetary Board, while investment in Sri Lankan Airlines was ratified by the Monetary Board later. The EPF had made certain investments that appear to be on the basis of instructions received from personnel outside the central bank and said to be in the national interest. The forensic report, quoting various persons, reveals that Governor AJITH Cabral had a close involvement in these matters.
This was the response from the ruling party today with regard to the forensic audit. The entire world and the entire country now knows everything about the central bank bond scam. But now they have released a forensic audit and accuse us if we defrauded the central bank. Such a report should ideally be prepared by the Auditor General. But this report was prepared by the Governor of the Central Bank and central bank officials who served during the period the central bank bond scam took place. Those who talk about this in Parliament are those who are part of the bond scam. On one hand is the footnote group. On the other is the group that benefited from the scam. We should not consider this report. We must appoint a presidential commission to look into this matter and punish those responsible. Those who accepted bribes from allociates are the ones who presented this report to escape from all of this.
ARJUNA allociates ගේ සල්ලි ගත්ත අය මේකෙන් බේරෙන්න තමයි මේ වාර්තාව ඉදිරිපත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ කියන එක අපි මේ අවස්ථාවේ.
Former chairman of the Committee on Public Enterprises, Sunil Handunetti, spoke strongly on the revelations made in the forensic audit report on the issuance of treasury bonds.
මේ අපරාධ කල්ලිය මූල්‍ය වෙළඳ පොලේදීත් ඉන්නේ එක පවුලක් හැටියට.
This criminal gang remains as a family in the financial market. At a point they would be with the UNP and at another point they would be with the SLPP. Speaking of the forensic audit report, from the very moment it was prepared by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, there are several people who made attempts to discredit the report, claiming it was flawed and of no use. One of them is the former Central Bank Chief AJITH Cabral. We raised concerns, and the forensic audit report proved what we said. Why is Ajit Nivad Cabral alarmed over this? The reason is conflict of interest. This was not only evident between Arjuna Mahendran and Arjuna Aloysius, it was among Ajit Nivad Cabral and his circle as well. Have a good look at the family tree at section 11/18 of the report. It shows the relationships of Ajit Nivad Cabral when he was governor from 2006 to 2015. It also shows how the relationships of Arjuna Mahendran when he was governor from 2015 to 2016. Ajit Nivad Cabral, speaking to a newspaper, had questioned why the forensic audit stretched its investigation until 2002, when the commission only recommended until 2008. What is the wrong in investigating a matter from where it all began? The question we have is, why is Ajit Nivad Cabral so alarmed over this? None of the governors before Ajit Nivad Cabral are raising concerns over this investigation. If they are not alarmed, why is Ajit Nivad Cabral alarmed over this? The leaders who instructed both Arjuna Mahendran and Ajit Nivad Cabral must be brought to court. The forensic audit report was prepared considering all facts. If this government and Gotabaya Rajapaksa are keen on imposing punishments on those responsible for the bond scam, the reports have shown where the scam originated from. The 5th volume speaks of it all, as the Minister of Finance, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, can now present facts. The COPE report, the report of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, and the 5th volume of the Forensic Audit Report relates to the fraud committed by Arjuna Mahendran and the company of Arjuna Aloysius. The forensic audit says EPF funds were directly invested in 19 separate companies. The loss to the EPF was 57,980 million rupees. The EPF funds were invested in companies using the pumping and dumping method. This was done with the relationships of Arjuna Mahendran's family and Ajit Nivad Cabral's family. These two families would not have carried out such acts if not for political protection. They were deeply connected to the level to involve Ajit Nivad Cabral's sister into perpetual treasuries owned by Arjuna Aloysius. Ajit Nivad Cabral's sister Shiromi Vikramasinghe was a director of Perpetual Holdings from 2013 to 2015. Thereafter came in another relative of Cabral, who was Ravendran Thambaya, followed by his other relative Nihal Fonseca and niece Renuka Thambaya. All of them belong to one group. On the other side, we have the other group of Arjuna Mahendran and Arjuna Aloysius. From 2006 to 2015, who reigned under these governors? They are the bond kings. The bond kings are Arjuna Mahendran and Arjuna Aloysius. We must not allow the forensic audit to be swept under the carpet. Do not discredit it. This is not something to do with the Monetary Board of the Central Bank. This was commissioned on them by COPE in Parliament and the Presidential Commission. The report is now public and there are no flaws with the persons who made the report. If there is a flaw in the report, look into it. All these people belong to one club. Since 2002, bonds to the value of almost 5,600 billion rupees were issued. 90% of those bonds were issued to non-captive sources through direct placements. They negotiate and obtain the bonds. When bonds are issued to a primary dealer using this method, the board of the central bank and the monetary board are kept in the dark. As Finance Minister, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa can start from the top or from the bottom and look into this.
මුලින් පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන් නැත්නම් අගින් පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. අගින් පටන් අරන් මුලට යන්නත් පුළුවන්. මුලින් පටන් අරන් අරට එන්නත් පුළුවන්.
දැන් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ රනිල්.
What has happened now? Mahinda, who came to capture Ranil, has to answer to the general public. Former governor of the central bank Nivad Cabral said that this report is biased. Why did the former governor of the central bank want to accuse the report of being biased? Forensic audits are prepared by companies that are well versed with doing it. What happened is very clear. Ranil robbed the central bank in broad daylight. Mahinda robbed the central bank day and night. During the Mahinda Cabral period, losses caused through the issuance of bonds were 10,470 million rupees. The forensic audit states that the loss caused between 2015 and 2017 during the Ranil Arjuna period was 689 million rupees. The forensic audit has proved that the team wearing shawls had defeated the team wearing ties and coats. Why did the tie coat team protect the shawl team? And now, why is the SHAWL team protecting the Thai court team?
දෙගොල්ලන්ගේම කිල්ලොටවල ලොරි ගණන් හුණු හිරේ දාන්න ආපු මිනිස්සුන්ට දැන් දෙගොල්ලෝ එකට මාංචු දාගෙන යමම් පුතා හිරේ කියලා තමයි කියන්න වෙන්නේ මේ දෙගොල්ලන්ටම දැන්.
The people who came to put the thieves in jail now have to wear handcuffs themselves and go to jail together. You don't have to go anywhere to nab the bomb thieves. There is a forensic report from a world-renowned institution. Get the information, seek the advice of the Attorney General, or an act of parliament can be passed to do this. The people who came into power in the past protected the thieves who were in power.
බලයේ හිටපු රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහලව ඒ හොරු ටික රකින්න එක.
A forum themed financial and management accounting for the development of SMEs was held in Colombo today.
The event was graced by several experts representing various fields. The keynote address was delivered by the Senior Advisor on Economic Affairs to the Prime Minister AJITH Cabral.
90% of the businesses in the world are SME driven, and Sri Lanka is not materially different to that. So we are also keen that the SMEs are promoted. So the idea is to ensure there is enough money in the hands of people to be able to provide themselves with those services, so that those who are providing the services will have income, so that the consumer demand is once again brought back into focus. Even the farmer must have access to technology. He must know what is happening in the world. I want to assure you that in order to promote SMEs, we need to have modest taxes. That's why very high tax rates were cut in order to stimulate the economy.
The Constitutional Council approved the President's recommendation to appoint Yasantha Kodagoda as a Supreme Court judge.
The meeting convened at 1:45 this afternoon and was chaired by Speaker Karujai Surya. The Council was informed of the President's written recommendation and received approval today. At the same time, the Constitutional Council approved the appointments of Justice AHMD Nawaz as the new President of the Court of Appeal.
Major General retired Nanda Malavarachi has been appointed as the Director General of the Multi-Purpose Development Task Force.
According to the Presidential Media Unit, the Multi-Purpose Development Task Force has been established under the concept of creating a poverty-free Sri Lanka in line with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's vision of Saubhagya Dakma. The government intends establishing this corporation after providing formal vocational training to those with minimum educational qualifications and providing permanent employment to the government. He had earlier served as a secretary to the Ministry of Law and Order and ambassador to Indonesia. Major General retired Malavarachi was a former Chief of Staff of the Sri Lanka Army. Nanda Malavarachi has been the founding secretary of the Ministry of Law and Order and secretary of the Ministry of Sports.
The people who suffered due to wild elephants encroaching on their villages and the wild elephants who suffered due to human activity have become a national issue of the country.
Panna enna denna ba දැන් කඩාන යන්නේ දැන් කඩාන යනවර මේව ගලවගෙන සොත්තම
This elephant fence has been built around the BUDDHANGALA Forest Reserve as a solution to the problem. The only thing that stands between the residents of Vijitapura, Navagampura, Tissapura and Rajababa villages and the wild elephants in the reserve is the elephant fence. However, today the residents are forced to guard this elephant fence day and night. Members of the Civil Defence Force are also helping to protect the fence day and night. Although the elephants who encroached on the village in the night were chased away like this, it is not an easy task to chase the wild elephants away at night.
අපි කෙලින්ම යනවා අලිවිටියක් කෙලින්ම ඉල්ලන්න කෙලින්ම උණිවාඩු කියලා.
දැන් මේ ගිනි වැලක් ගහගෙන අපි එළිය වෙනකම්ම ඉන්නේ මෙතන ඉඳන්ම තමයි මේක රකින්නේ. මේ පැල හරේ තියෙන අපි මේ පාරිනගෙන රකින්නේ. අනික මේ වනජීවි වාහනේ වගේ තමයි මේ වාහනේ තමයි අපි හැමතැනම මේ දුවලා මේ ගමේ තියෙන මේ කුඹුරු යාය ඔක්කොම රකින්නේ මෙහෙන් තමයි අපි මේ රැකෙන්නේ.
The outpost constructed for the members of the Civil Defence Force on the border of the BUDDHANGALA Forest Reserve did not have flowing water or electricity since 4 years ago. The only weapon these villagers and members of the Civil Defence Force have are a few firecrackers. The villagers allege that they do not even have a sufficient amount of these firecrackers. The wild elephants in the forest reserve are accustomed to consuming the garbage at the Ampara Solid Waste Management Centre, situated in Navagampura, bordering the forest reserve. According to area residents, about 1,000 acres of paddy are cultivated in fields surrounding the forest reserve.
We are suffering a lot after we started farming. About 100 to 200 people stand here in the afternoon, waiting for elephants to come. No matter how many people are here during nightfall, the elephants encroach on the village. The farmers have decided to reap the harvest 1 month prior to the due date because of the human-elephant conflict in the region.
Now on our final segment on urban wetlands, we turn to find out how effective an artificially built wetland has become in being a green oasis in the middle of the city. Disal Kapuge joins us.
Wetlands are known as the carbon sink of the world because 1 acre of wetlands has the ability to store more carbon than 5 acres of normal forest. The Desuru Park in Batharamulla is an artificially built wetland. The question remains, how successful is this artificial space in becoming a fully fledged wetland?
The Desuru Park is called urban wetland because it's surrounded by urban built up areas and is one of the very few remaining wetlands in and around Colombo. And this wetland is especially important because of the high biological diversity that is found in this particular wetland. According to my observations so far, I have recorded more than 75 species of birds, about 32 or more dragonflies and damselflies, and also about 60 species of butterflies in this area. And it shows that there is a lot of diversity that needs to be further explored. When it comes to birds, there is both a migratory bird component, which is very important, and also resident bird population in this place. So therefore we can be assured that there will be some diversity that we can expect, which are not found usually in other urban wetlands and in other areas around cities. This kind of urban wetland serves several other purposes rather than serving the usual attributes and services of a wetland. One is that an urban wetland helps keep the environment pleasant for the people because it keeps the air circulating and it gives a rather cool effect to the surrounding area.
China has widened a lockdown in Hubei province, the center of the coronavirus outbreak, as the death toll climbed to 26. Meanwhile, in India, 2 people who returned from China were kept under medical observation in Mumbai for possible exposure to the novel coronavirus. The Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation has created an isolation ward at its hospital. Muad Razik joins us with more.
Now, as we speak right now, the talk of the town has been the coronavirus, which has rocked many parts of the world. The latest development is China has imposed travel restrictions across more than 10 cities, especially in the Hubei province and including the Wuhan city, where the coronavirus was first emerged in the Hubei province. So this includes around 20 million people, which is equivalent to Sri Lanka's population. More than 20 million people are restricted from travelling in and out of the Hubei province, and also more than 800 confirmed cases of coronavirus have been reported from China as we speak right now.
Meanwhile, China is rushing to build a new hospital in a staggering 10 days to treat patients of the coronavirus outbreak in Wuhan. The 1,000-bed, 25,000 square foot facility is expected to be in use by the 3rd of February to serve the rising number of patients. In 2003, China erected a hospital in Beijing's rural outskirts in barely a week to cater to a rapidly rising number of patients suffering from SARS.
Now, in the meantime, the World Health Organization has said the coronavirus outbreak is not yet a health emergency of international concern, as many reasons for the coronavirus is yet unknown. And also, another interesting case reported from Paris, where a Chinese woman was detected trespassing the security officials, the security process in Paris, where she has been later arrested for not being detected of the coronavirus. So that is a very interesting scenario which happened in Paris, and this may occur in all other parts of the world as well.
WHO Director General at a press conference after a closed-door meeting of the Emergency Committee said, quote, "I am not declaring a public health emergency of the international concern today, as it was yesterday that the Emergency Committee was divided over whether the outbreak of novel coronavirus represents a PHEIC or not," end quote. The lockdown comes on the eve of Lunar New Year, one of the most important days in the Chinese calendar when millions of people travel home.
Sri Lanka, as a major tourist destination in the world, sees a large chunk of Chinese nationals arriving every year to the island. Last year alone, in 2019, more than 40,000 Chinese nationals arrived in Sri Lanka as tourists. And also an interesting fact is that more than 10,000 people, 10,000 Chinese nationals are currently residents of Sri Lanka, mainly involved in the construction and many other sectors as well. And now, of course, the Chinese New Year is currently being celebrated, and many Chinese are going back to China and returning, and they will be returning back to Sri Lanka as well. So that will also be a major concern for Sri Lanka and many other parts of the country as well.
Embassy of Sri Lanka in China says the embassy in Beijing is closely monitoring the evolving situation of the coronavirus infection in China and is presently in discussion with relevant Chinese authorities in Beijing and Wuhan, as well as Sri Lankans in Wuhan and other parts of China. The embassy has been receiving queries from Sri Lankans in Hubei province, especially in Wuhan, as well as from their relatives in Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankan embassy is closely monitoring advisories issued by the World Health Organization. Meanwhile, Sri Lankan Airlines has implemented a series of precautionary measures to mitigate the risk from the current coronavirus epidemic in the Far East, with the safety and well-being of its valued passengers and staff being of paramount importance. Sri Lankan's cabin crew and other relevant staff have been briefed on actions to be taken on board and at airports, especially those in the Far East. The airlines is also in contact with relevant aviation and health authorities who are involved in monitoring the situation. This includes the Ministry of Health and authorities at Colombo's Bandaranaike International Airport.
Now, with the coronavirus being a major threat across many parts of the world, what are the authorities here at home doing about this? The matter was discussed extensively in Parliament today.
There is a health desk at the airport. If there is a passenger who has any of the symptoms of the virus, they could report to this health desk. There was a Chinese national who had fever and he had reported to the health desk, but it turned out that he only had normal fever. There is a device set up there that detects anyone with high body temperature. We have taken the necessary measures. No such case has been reported as yet.
And that's the wrap for Primetime News. It was a pleasure having you with us. For the News First team, I am Rahna Farouk.
And I'm John Fernando. Take care, good night, and have yourself a safe Friday night.